So let me ask you this question. Are you suddenly single? Hi, my name is Jason Bowers and welcome to my channel. So in this upcoming series, and it's going to be more of a continuous series, if you will, I want to talk about some best practices and things to think about when you find yourself either suddenly single or on the path to be suddenly single. So what I mean by that is it can be something that can be a separation or a divorce. It can be a widow or a widower. Just something that happened that removed you from a relationship that you didn't necessarily plan on. And that can be a very emotional time. And in full transparency, I've been divorced before, so I understand the challenges. That's why I pursued the Certified Divorce Financial Analyst designation. That's why most of the people that I work with closely inside of financial planning relationships have also been down that path before, because it's a challenge to make decisions during emotionally challenging times like that. So what I want to talk about today in today's video is going to be 5 mistakes that people typically make when they're separated. So first and foremost, they tend to make rash or emotional decisions. And look, it's understandable. Whether you've been down that path or not is irrelevant. You can understand why that can be an emotionally charged situation, right? Whether you were the one who initiated or whether it was initiated against you, it can really drive those emotions. And when we're emotional, we're not always thinking clearly, both on the high side, emotionally happy, or on the downside, emotionally sad or frustrated. We tend to act impulsively and without reason or without forethought. We let anger take over, quite often. And we want to make sure that we do our best to control that. And God, today's day and age, boy, do we jump to social media, right? Whether it's passive aggressively or you throw everything out there and air your dirty laundry. So you don't want to act impulsively. You want to make sure that every decision you make is with intention. One of the things you can do is making sure that everything is done through some level of text, ideally email. That's akin to kind of putting your credit card in a block of ice in the freezer. That keeps you from acting impulsively, right? You have to pull that block out, wait for it to thaw before you can use it, for a purchase online. That's the thought behind it. Nowadays, I know credit cards are information stored in our phone, and you can just buy with a single tap. But the mindset is still there. Instead of making that phone call and lashing out verbally or doing a quick post on social media, when you tie something to email, A, you keep it private between you and that person. And B, when you're typing out thoughts, it gives you a chance to go back and reread before you hit send, and it protects you from really acting truly impulsively. It also allows you to kind of quell that anger. Look, there's been many times in my life where I've jumped into an email and I'm pounding on those keys because I'm angry, I'm emotional, and it allows you at the end, when you're finishing up that note, especially if it's longer, your emotions kind of fall down a little bit. You level out a little bit. Being emotional and being angry tends to be more of a spur of the moment for a short period of time. So staying away from social media, which is typically shorter, more emotional posts or entries. And always keep in mind, sometimes it's beneficial. My therapist have told me this. Type it out, just don't press send. Get it out of your system, get it out of your thumbs, read it to yourself. Don't press send. The second you press send, it's out there, you can't take it back. So number 2 is failing to seek legal or financial advice. Look, you do not have to do this alone, but there's a lot of people look at the cost. Wow, if I get an attorney, it's going to be thousands of dollars. Well, what is going to be the cost of not getting an attorney, right? Neglecting financial separation, not separating your joint accounts. You don't have a right to all of the assets, but at the end of the day, you also don't have to leave them all in joint accounts so the other person can continue to spend, because that's their right as well inside of a joint account. So separating things like joint bank accounts, separating things like joint credit cards, that's something that can be key there at the beginning. Also, don't ignore those legal documents. Numerous times, ex-wives or ex-spouses, ex-husbands are still listed as beneficiaries on things like retirement accounts. So once you get to that point in the separation where you feel like there's no going back, there's no reconciliation, you really have to be intentional with acting on those things. And the first step is get some financial and legal advice. Get somebody in your corner who's done this before, who can tell you the do's and don'ts, can tell you where not to waste your time and where to put forth your effort. And they also can be that barrier between you and emotional decisions, because all your decisions should go through them and allow them to communicate with your ex-partner. So number 3, don't rush into a new relationship. Look, with social media, everything out there is visible, and it can be a challenge sometimes when maybe you're struggling with the separation and it wasn't something that you wanted, or maybe you did want it and you're still struggling with where your life is at. And you log in on one of the social media platforms, and there it is. Your ex has already moved on, and it can be challenging, right? It's one of the most challenging situations that you may end up going through. And on top of that, you're typically going at it alone from a relationship standpoint. So things that I recommend, especially that worked for me, is leaning into friends, right? Getting out of the house, spending some time with some friends, the people that are important to you, the ones that care about you, that want to see you in a good place. And they'll do everything they can to keep you from going into that dark place. Also, in today's day and age, it's never been easier for us to seek emotional support through professional therapy. A lot of things can be done online now. Most insurance keeps that cost relatively low. Look, I've benefited from therapy over the past half decade myself, and then it makes me wonder how I got through life prior to having that outlet and having somebody to filter my thoughts through, and a virtual punching bag, if you will. That's where my emotions get to go, is towards my therapist, and they stay in that conversation. So that could be one of the things at the very beginning that you could really set up for yourself to get some guidance. So get those professionals in your corner to help you out emotionally, legally, and financially. Another mistake, number 4, is neglecting your children. If there's children involved, understand that even though they may not understand everything that's going on, this is hitting them pretty hard too, especially the older that they get. You don't want to use your children as messengers, right? That was one of the things that I made sure when I was going through my situation, that I protected my daughter as much as possible, and kept things to the facts, only spoke highly of her mom. Look, she was a great mom. It's just we were a bad match for husband and wife. So I didn't want to skew my daughter's opinion of her mom. Now, that was not being done on the other side, but I didn't have control over that. I had control over my actions and how I handled the situation. And that's what you're going to be in control of, is your actions and how you handle it. So be careful with what you say around your kids, because they're smarter than you think. They hear more than you think. And you just want to make sure that you don't put them in the middle. And then on top of that, you also don't want to overlook their needs. One of the best practices that I heard when I was going through my situation is I made sure that I was sending some support to who was going to be my ex-wife at the time, long before the courts ever got involved, because I wanted to make sure that my daughter was taken care of. And so just making sure that her mom was getting enough money to take care of some of the necessities that she had, that went a long way with both my attorney as well as the judge when we did get in front of her. So you want to make sure that you're doing what you know is right, even though it may be inconvenient for you at a time where your life might be in an upheaval. Don't forget about taking care of your kids. Spend time with them, get them out of the house, do fun things with them. That will also help you tremendously, trust me. And then finally, again, I'm going to tie in the 5th one to a few things we've already said. Do not neglect your mental health. This is going to be challenging. There's going to be nights where you can't sleep. There's going to be times where this dominates your thoughts. You'll find it challenging to work. You want to make sure that you don't isolate yourself. Surround yourself with people, coworkers, go to happy hours, spend time with friends, go out in public. Even if it's just to walk around and listen to some headphones, but you get out of the house. When you isolate yourself, you really put yourself in a position where you're alone with your own thoughts. And I don't know about you, but for me, it's not a phenomenal place to be. But when I get distracted, the best is when I'm out and about, I'm in public, and I'm hanging out with people that care about me. You got to make sure that you prioritize your mental health, and don't forget your self-care. If women, if you're out there and you enjoy getting your nails done and that periodic, pedicure, get those done. That's going to help change your mindset. Guys, get out there, go to the gym, do things, play some sports, hang out with some friends, have a couple guys' nights out. There's things that we can do to prioritize our mental health, our physical health, take care of yourself. Don't go into excessive drinking habits. Those are just things that are going to be a detriment to a situation that's already going to be challenging. And I'll give one little extra thing. A couple of those will tie into your finances. Don't make emotional decisions with your finances. Don't go pay off a bunch of stuff. Don't go charge a bunch of stuff on the credit card saying, well, it doesn't matter if I spend it now, it's half her responsibility. Don't do those things. Work with your financial professional to understand what are the right moves and what are the wrong moves. Understanding how assets are going to be divided is typically the one thing that people have the largest misconceptions about. They don't understand what is truly theirs, what is truly their partner's, and what is considered a marital asset. Sit down with your financial professional, get that blank pad of paper, and make sure you understand what that household balance sheet looks like. Any CDFA, certified divorce financial analyst, can do that for you. Someone like myself will sit down with you, help you understand what are your assets, what are their assets, and then what we call marital assets. We help put cash values on pensions, things of that nature, just so you understand what you truly have a right to. That way, when you and your attorney do start putting your game plan together, you can do it with information, make informed decisions, and go into those proceedings with a game plan. Because again, you don't want that to be emotional, you don't want it to be last-ditch effort, and you definitely don't want to do it yourself. Get those professionals in place. Yes, is it going to cost you some money, a couple $1,000s potentially for an attorney and some other professionals? Yes. But what is the cost of you not doing that? Potentially giving up too much of your assets when you really didn't need to, not getting your right to other marital assets. Those could be tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's important to make sure you have your wits about you when you're making decisions and not to let your emotions get too high or too low. And one of the key aspects around that, surround yourself with the people that care about you most. So I'm going to have some other best practices, things to avoid when you find yourself suddenly single. So look forward to that next video, and we'll talk to you soon.